Hello everyone. So today I'm going to be showing you how to transfer these designs into fully responsive code using Figma, Locofy, and in a Next.js app. I have my Next.js app set up here. It's a default Create Next project. I have my app running here, and I have my Locofy to-do repo synced with my local repo. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new project. I'll do this by select project and create new. And I'm going to call this Locofy to do. In the Next.js framework, I'm going to use JavaScript, no CSS variables, and I'm going to click create. This will generate a Locofy to do app inside of the Locofy environment. The second thing we're going to do is preview. So I'm going to select this frame, the to do page frame, and I'm going to click preview. And what you're seeing here is actually fully built code. Now, this code is not functional. It is not responsive. And this input is not working. I'm going to teach you how to configure everything in Locofy in order to see this app as it's going to be seen in production. And that's the beauty of this tool. If you see it working in this environment, in this preview, working responsively, that means Locofy is going to allow you to export that code, and when you copy and paste that code or push that code to your repo, you're going to be able to see it working just as it was here. So let me show you how to configure this app in order to be responsive and for you to be able to export it really fast into your Next.js project. Now, in order to make our designs responsive on the Locofy extension, as well as in our Next.js app, the first thing you want to do is you want to make them responsive on Figma, so that when you move things around, they respond to the screen size, at least in the frames. So how do we do that? We're going to do that by using a property of Figma called auto layout. Now, auto layout was introduced a couple of years ago by Figma in order to make things work the same way as they do in a web app Flexbox. So Flexbox, if you remember, is the box model of handling layouts. The way that things can fill the available space, or things can be ordered a certain way, like justify content space between, or align items center. So auto layout does exactly that. Now, if you see this, I'm going to start applying auto layout to this. Now, check this out. If I apply auto layout, it's going to kind of adapt to whatever content is inside of it. Now, I'm in the to-do list design. If I move this around, still not responsive. Now, let's make the to-do list container adapt to the to-do list design. So we're going to apply auto layout. And if you saw, some items became rearranged. Now, all the content is fitting the available vertical space of the frame. So if I delete a couple of things, the vertical space is responding to the inner frame, the inner to-do list container. Now, let's make this so that it responds to the frame size of the to-do list design. So I'm going to grab this to-do list container, and I'm going to change in the frame from hot to fill container. So now, if you click the to-do list design, the inner frame of the to-do list container is responding to the outer frame. Now, we want to do exactly the same thing for all the elements inside. So for the header, first let's apply auto layout, and then let's change this to fill the container. So let's see if that's responding. So it's still not responding, but it is filling the available space. So now, why is the sun not going to the right? Let's double click this, the header frame. And if you go to auto layout, remember there's a property in Flexbox called justify content. Now, that's spacing mode for auto layout. And we want actually justify content space between. Actually, there's a property called space between. So now the to-do list header is responding to the to-do list design frame. Now, let's do that for the rest of the components as well. For the to-do complete, we're going to apply auto layout and make it fill container. And for to-do incomplete, let's apply auto layout and do fill container. Now, I just noticed I have to change the naming here from to-do complete to to-do incomplete. And this is going to matter a lot when we export the code, and you'll see why. Now, I'm going to delete the rest of these because this is dynamic content. We're going to be adding to-do items when we use state. And let's keep applying auto layout and filling space for the rest of the components. So this add to do, we're going to do fill container. And let's do these two dividers to fill container. And finally, inside of these to do complete and to do incomplete, this text is not filling the available space, so we're going to do fill container. And for to do incomplete, we're going to do fill container. Okay, awesome. So now, if you see here, well, before, let's check that this is responding. This is responding to the screen size. Obviously, this is overlaying, and we're going to fix that. But let's preview this. And on the preview, you can see our to-do app is responding to the screen size, which is great. Now you see the sun here. It's a little bit off, so I'm going to double click it, and I'm going to apply auto layout because it was a frame with a text inside of it. Let's see if that's fixed. And it is fixed. So now we have a semi-responsive app. Now I'm going to show you how to get this into our code using the Locofy builder. So now let's export these responsive designs, semi-responsive designs, to our code. So all you got to do is select the to-do list design frame and click View Code. And let's do just selected frames and click View in Builder. Now it's going to sync with the builder. So this is the Locofy builder. It's designed to export Figma designs into code. And here, as I'll show you later, you'll be able to export code directly to your GitHub repo. And not only that, but modify that code to include components built with React and add props to it and functionality all in one tool. So let's get started. And as you can see, we have our designs here. And not only that, you got code. And the code that Locofy creates is actually pretty good. It represents our Figma layers, and it's applying some styling to them. Now, I'm going to go over the builder a little bit more after we push this to our code. So now I'm going to push to GitHub, and you're going to connect your account. Mine is already connected. I'm going to click Existing Repository. I'm going to pick my Locofy to-do. I'm going to make a new branch based out of our main branch. So I'm going to check out into a branch called Locofy.ai. I'm going to confirm repo and push. Now, Locofy gives you a div so that you can see your Locofy additions and your remote branch. So this is the remote. This is what we got here in our Locofy to do. And this is what Locofy is pushing. As you can see, there are some conflicts, which we are going to fix. Now, Locofy allows you to keep your GitHub changes, accept both changes, or accept your Locofy changes for each of the conflicting files. I'm going to pick all Locofy for now because it's a new branch we're checking out of and it's a new project. So I'm going to accept all Locofy changes if it's a new project. I'm going to mark everything as resolved. I'm going to accept these changes. I'm going to complete merge and push. And this is going to push our latest Locofy code into our GitHub repo. So now that our changes are pushed, you can see that here on the Locofy to-do repo, it's identifying that the Locofy UI had recent pushes, meaning our app now has access to that Locofy UI branch. So I'm going to do git fetch here. And as you can see, it pulled the Locofy UI branch. So I'm going to git checkout into that branch. And I'm going to refresh this page. And look at that. We got our designs pushed. And now this is responding just like it was with auto layout on Figma. And that's what I meant. Once you set up Figma correctly with auto layout and responsiveness, it will work by default on Locofy because it will pull from that Flexbox designs that auto layout has, and it'll push it into code that makes sense with those. Now, obviously, we are limited because the limits of Figma are that it doesn't have conditional styling, meaning that if we resize this, it won't work. And that's where Locofy comes in. So now we're going to go back to Locofy, and I'm going to teach you how to use the tagging system in order to make these designs responsive with Locofy on the preview. So that when you preview things here, will tell the designs, hey, when you reach these breakpoints, because if you see up here, Locofy gives you the several screen options. We're going to give you the ability to change the design responsiveness once you reach these breakpoints. So, without further ado, let's start tagging. Tagging is pretty simple. You just have to go to the preview. You can do it several ways, but you can go to the preview, and let's say we want this header to, when it reaches a certain breakpoint, you can see auto layout here, we want to change it into a vertical layout, and we want to center it. And I'll teach you how to align things afterwards. But let's go to this 960 breakpoint, or 420. No, 420. Let's do 960. So in 960, we're going to tag this header as a container. We're going to call it a div, and we're going to go to styling and layout. We're now in 960. And in 960, we want the direction to be vertical. So now this, at 1200, it's a column, a row. And then in 960 is a column. Now, let's go to 960 again. Not only do you want to do that, but we also want to center things. So the designs are centered. And as you can see, this to-do title and user feedback tomorrow are not centered. And the reason is, if you see here, we forgot to add auto layout to this. So I'm going to add auto layout. Let me close this so it's clear. I'm going to add auto layout to this header, and I'm going to fill the container it's in. Then I'm going to open up the Locofy extension. And let's check that this text is also filling the available space. It is not, it is fixed. So let's fill container, and then user feedback. Let's fill the container. And then let's preview this. So now it is filling the container, but it's aligned to the left. So let's go to this text and tag it as text, call it a div, and in styling and layout 960, which is the same as the other, we can go down here and typography, just center it. And now it's centered. Now let's go to user feedback. Let's call it a text. Let's go to call it a div, and in styling and layout 960, let's center it. And now it is centered. And now this is exactly what we wanted. The other thing I'm going to do to keep things very simple is I'm going to go to the to-do list container. And if you see, there's a lot of padding around it, 57 and 64. We want that to be lower when it reaches smaller sizes. So let's go to 420. And we know dimensions, the padding is 57 on the left and right, and 64 top and bottom. So let's call this a container, call it a div, and in styling and layout 420, let's reduce this padding. And you guessed it, in layout and direction, we can reduce it to 32 on the left and 32 on the right. So now you have designs that are not only responding in terms of the layout direction, but also in almost every other feature that the div allows you to modify. And this is fully exportable code. Now let's close this preview, and let's say these designs are ready to go. Now I'm going to teach you how to update the designs on your code. There's one extra thing I forgot to tag, which is the to-do, add to-do. We can tag this instead of a text or a div. We can tag this as an input. As you can see, there's many libraries you can use this with. We're going to choose none because we don't want any styling for that. And that's all we're going to leave it at. So now when you preview, not only do you have these designs responsive, but also you have text that you can edit. Input works. Yay. So now let's go and export this code. Let's say our designs are ready. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to click View Code, and I'm going to click View and Code Builder. And we don't have to click View and Code in Builder because this is all automatically synced with our designs. If you see here, it's already responding to the layout dimensions. If you click View Prototype, it's all working. So let's say we're ready to export this to our code. So I'm going to click Export and Deploy, push to GitHub. It already pre-configured everything for us, but it is suggesting us to push into an existing branch, which is what we want. We want to push the updates into our Locofy UI branch. And if you see here, there are no conflicts. And there are no conflicts because Locofy automatically merged our new modifications with the GitHub code that we already have here. So all we got to do is push to GitHub. Now that it's done exporting, we can go back to our code, and because this Locofy UI branch is on the remote, all we got to do is git pull. Because remember, this checked out or pushed the changes into the already existing Locofy UI branch that we had, meaning that all the updates are going to be reflected here. So let's test it out. And look at that. It is working. So awesome. We got a full design to code workflow. Now I'm going to teach you how to make this code cleaner by creating components using the builder. So let's get started with the builder and creating components. So starting with the header, all you got to do is select the header on the left side of the screen. And here we got make component, and we just got to click make component. It's suggesting a name called header, and we're going to create that header. Now, if you see down here, it created a new file called header.js. And in index, which is our original file, it automatically added the header and imported from a components folder. So another way of creating components that is much faster is actually using auto components with Locofy.ai. So let me show you how this works. I'm going to detach this component because you can always turn files into their original formats, so removing the components. And I'm going to use auto components with Locofy.ai. And as you can see, I have one suggestion. So this does pretty much what you would expect, which is it recognizes that this might be a component, and it gives you a suggestion to turn it into a component. In this case, the to-do header, which is the frame name from Figma, and it's recognizing it as a header. And if we click accept, then there you go. Now we have a to-do header created automatically with Locofy. That means that if you set up things correctly on Figma, Locofy is able to detect the frame names and suggest you components so you can build this much faster. Now let's do the same for to-do complete and to-do incomplete. So just make component. It already suggested the name, to-do complete. We're going to click create. And in to-do incomplete, we're going to do the same thing, make component, create. The other wonderful thing we can do with Locofy is adding props, meaning that we want to add a dynamic value for these finished designs and for make responsive on Figma. So all you got to do is select the component and click add value props. Pick the text that we have that we want to replace with a prop, so finished designs. And we're going to call this task value. And we're going to go to do incomplete, and we're going to do the same thing. So task value. And it's giving us a default value, which is the text that it's suggesting us to replace with a prop. So we're going to save this. It's going to look the same. But now check this out. Our index.js now has a header, a to-do complete, and a to-do incomplete. Has a header file, a to-do complete file with the prop task value, and a to-do incomplete as well, also with a prop task value. So now we're going to export this code so you can see how much cleaner it is. So I'm going to click export and deployed, push to GitHub. Again, existing repo, Locofy to do, existing branch, Locofy UI, which is the branch that we're working on, confirm repo, and we shouldn't have any conflicts whatsoever. As you can see, a new components folder was created with all the components that we created. Our page index was updated, and we're going to push to GitHub. Now that it pushed, you already know what to do. Go back here, hit pull, and it created the components folder, and now we got our new index file with everything being imported as components. And we can change these values, hello world, and if I save, I can see this here. So you already get the flow. Now let's add state management to this to-do list in order to be done with this design to code workflow. The way I like to structure this to avoid conflicts with the Locofy UI and state management is I like to check out to a new branch called Locofy UI state. That way, when we push new changes, we can push them to the previous branch and then merge with a Locofy UI state branch. So let's get started with state. So the first thing we're going to do is import useState, and I'm going to auto import that from React. And I have a snippet. I'm going to call this to-do, set to-dos, and it's going to be an empty array. And we're going to do three things. We're going to add to-dos, we're going to toggle them, and we're going to delete them. And with delete, I'll show you how to add, after this state works with add and to-do, I'm going to show you how to add a new icon from our Locofy designs into this. So you can also integrate code into the designs when it's already working. And you'll see how. First thing we're going to do is add. So add to-do. We're going to add a value. And we're actually going to listen for an event, because we want to listen for an event input, which is the enter key. That's how this is going to work. So if event.key equals enter, capital E, then we're going to get a copy of to-dos. And this is best practice for setting state in React. So copy to-dos. We're going to push a new object called value, which is the value of the to-do, and it's going to be the event.target.value, and it's going to have a property done called false. So it's not done. So it's this one. So now let's set the to-dos to be a copy to-dos. And if we add this to on key down, add, and save, if I refresh this, add to-do. So there's no way of seeing if this worked or not, because we aren't rendering the to-dos. So let's do to-dos.map, to-do. And let's say if to-do.done, return to-do complete, and else return the to-do incomplete. Let's see if that works. That's great. There's one item which we just added, and it's called make responsive on Figma, which is this. So let's replace this with to-do.value. And same here, to-do.value. Let's save. And this works. Awesome. Great, so this is working. Now let's add the toggle function. So const toggle, and we're going to toggle at index. So toggle at index, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to grab a copy of to-dos, and it's going to say copy to-dos at index.done equals to not copy to-dos index.map. .done, sorry. And finally, set to-dos to copy to-dos. So this will switch between the done and the not done property. Finally, we're going to const delete at index. Oh, delete is reserved for JavaScript, so delete to-do. And we're going to do copy to-dos, copy to-dos, and copy to-dos at index. No, sorry, we're gonna splice it at the index and just one value. And we're gonna do set to-dos to copy to-dos. So here's our three functions. Now let's pass them as props. So here, you want to pass an extra prop called index here. So we're tracking the index of the task, and we're gonna do index, and we actually want to do this for both. If you press the Alt key, you can actually edit multiple lines. So index, toggle to do equals toggle to do, and finally delete to do. Oops, and we got a small issue here. Let's see what it is. Toggle to do is not defined. Oh, I called it toggle to do, not toggle. My bad. So it's called toggle. And there it works. And let's call it toggle to be consistent. Okay, great. So this works. Now let's go to each of these to-do complete, and let's pass in index, toggle to-do, delete to-do. Oh, we called it toggle. And I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put it here as well on the to-do incomplete, because both to-dos should have the same functionality. And then on the to-do incomplete, which is this, when we click the icon on click, we're going to execute the toggle at index. So let's see if that works. Yes, that works. Great. So I'm going to copy this function, and I'm going to paste it on the image of the to-do complete as well. And yay, okay, it is toggling, and this keeps working. And now I'm going to show you how to delete a to-do, but first we got to add that feature. We need to add that button, that icon that deletes to-dos, and we're going to do that right now. So let's first save these changes, all working, on the Locofy UI state. And let's go back to our Figma designs. So I have this plugin for icons. You can just use whichever icon library you want. I'm going to search for trash. And let's say we're adding this trash, and I'm going to change the styling. We're going to add it here, and we're going to add it there. And let's say you've decided that this looks good. So I'm going to click this, I'm going to preview it, and that icon looks pretty good. So let's approve those designs, and let's export them. We're going to view in the code builder, and let's view them on the builder. So now you're on the builder, and you have the design here. So this is what we want. I'm going to view responsiveness, and this is all working. And I'm going to export and push to GitHub, to the existing repo of to-do, Locofy to-do. So now I'm going to push to GitHub, but I'm going to use an existing branch, and I'm going to pick our previous branch, which is the Locofy UI branch. So let me confirm and push. And there aren't any conflicts here. It just added the icon to the to-do complete and to-do incomplete. I'm going to push to GitHub. And now that it's finished pushing to GitHub, we know that we can do git checkout, Locofy UI. I'm going to do git pull. And remember, this doesn't have any state whatsoever. So now we can actually go to our other branch, and we can merge the Locofy UI into it. I'm going to write and quit because it's asking me to put some message. And now when we add a to-do, it has our icon there. And all we got to do is go to our to-do incomplete. You see this image as a vector. And same thing, on click, delete to-do at index. And we're going to do the same thing on our to-do complete. And this is now working for both. Let's do one final thing to the state, which is after submitted, let's add a new state variable. And this is the input, and it's going to be empty. So after this, we're going to set the input to be an empty string. And when I'm saying input, I mean this. So now every time we add a new to-do, oh, and we're missing the on change, e set input, e dot target dot value. When we set the input, new input, and we enter, this gets white. So that's our final app. We're going to do git add, git commit, all working. And we have a fully working app with beautiful designs, state management, all built with Locofy. So you're going to do one more thing after you finish this tutorial, which is we're going to fix something on Figma, and I want you to export it into your code. So if you see this container is not filling the available vertical space, you see this white space below, we are going to fix that with some properties on Locofy, and you will be exporting that after you do it. So I'm going to go back to Figma. I'm going to pick our to-do list designs, and I'm going to see what background color this has. So if you see, it has a white fill, and it's not being shown. So let's show it, and let's use this tool to make the background of our to-do list design, let's call this our page, the same color as our to-do list container, which is this. Now let's preview that. And if you see, that didn't fix the issue. So a simple way around this is to pick our to-do list design and edit our container. And on styling and layout, all you got to do is set the minimum height here to be 100, and we're going to change this to %. And that fixes the issue. So now that it's fixed, we're going to approve it, and we're going to click done, and we're going to view the code. And I want you now to go through the full flow of updating that fixed height. All you got to do is remember, view code, go to the builder, push to GitHub, and then you're going to pull into the Locofy branch. You're going to pull here, then you're going to check out into the Locofy UI state and merge it with the Locofy UI, and that should fix the issue. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the video. Today you learned how to use Locofy to export Figma designs into production-ready code and iterate over it to accelerate your design-to-code process. Please reach out to us on Slack if you have any questions, and hope you have a great day.